Hi, you guys. This is Michael DeBar. I've had such a great time on the Vinyl Guide. What a wonderful interview. I've done over 1 million interviews in my career, and this was absolutely one of the best. I'm very grateful to you guys. Keep listening. Over and out. MDB, wishing you the best of everything.
Well, thank you, Michael. And hey, everyone, welcome to episode 333 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And today we have the 26 Marquis DeBar himself, Mr. Michael DeBar, who you likely know from many TV and movie appearances, but he's also a rock star himself, originally in Silverhead, but also Power Station, Checkered Past, and today we are going to deep dive into his time with Detective, one of the few bands signed to Led Zeppelin's Swan song label. And today we're going to talk to Michael all about that period of time, forming Detective, meeting up with Led Zeppelin, signing up with Swan Song, making at the time what was the most expensive album to date, the release, the breakup, the reissue of Detective for Record Store Day, and much, much more. And if you enjoy this podcast, there is an extended version of this interview at patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Supporters of this podcast get access to lots of extra goodies all the time, including early, extended, and commercial-free versions of these interviews. So go up there now, patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Support the show. Let me know if you'd like me to spend the money on records, beer, or burritos, and enjoy all the extras, including an extended interview with Michael DeBar at patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. And today, being episode 333, means there are 332 other episodes featuring great guests you can listen to anytime, including Robbie Krieger of The Doors, episode 306 of The Vinyl Guide, Peter Frampton, episode 300, Tom Scholz of Boston, episode 297, Led Zeppelin mega collector, photographer, and author Ross Halfin, episode 294, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, episode 293, Fred Armisen of Saturday Night Live in Portlandia, episode 289, Dr. Dog's Eric Slick, episode 270, and many, many more. Subscribe to The Vinyl Guide in your podcast app, scroll, and enjoy. Oh yeah, one more thing. Please support our sponsors, including Groove Washer, the best record cleaner you can get. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record shop, or check them out online, groovewasher.com. Discount code VinylGuide10 will get you a deal. That's groovewasher.com, discount code VinylGuide10. We're also sponsored by AudiofileUSA.com, the cleanest, bestest used records, over 42,000 titles to choose from. Search, dig, and find the deals at AudiofileUSA.com. Alrighty, with the upfronts done, let's get into our conversation on the Detective and Swan Song years with Mr. Michael DeBar. So, Michael, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us here. Your career, your life has been such an adventure, and to be able to try to capture it in the hour we have would be would not work out well. So, I'm going to first off start by referring people to get your backstory by watching that documentary, that great documentary, Who Do You Want Me to Be? That much better sums up your experience, especially the acting and some of the non-musical areas, much more so than we can get into today. I'm assuming you're happy with that documentary, yeah?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It was 7 years in the making, and I'd never watched a frame of film. I totally trusted this guy, Elvis Weinstein, and we'd worked a lot together. You know, as an actor, I did these various things, and he was somehow the producer on a lot of them. So I got to know him. I got to trust him. I think it would have been really crass to come in and say, no, shoot me here, right here, the bones. Get the fucking bones, man. And, I mean, it's an absurdity. And I don't look at it the same way as anybody else because it's me. Mm-hmm. So I don't judge myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still here.
So let's talk Detective, because there's a reissue of Detective coming out April 23rd, Record Store Day, 2,000 units on colored vinyl, bit of an updated package. There's some new liner notes, a new insert. When you think back to Detective days, what are your thoughts? How is your perspective on that time of your life?
Cocaine and a good drum sound.
$1 million drum sound, as I understand. That's one of the most expensive records to record up to that point. Is that right?
The most expensive record that was ever made, and then we did it again. It's a fact. I mean, we did it twice. But I, again, I've never done anything normal. I mean, if normality is, it doesn't exist for me. It seems that whatever I've wanted to do I've done. I mean, it's a very interesting vibe, So, I'm 74 now, so I have a perspective of my life which is very sort of ingenuous. I don't even look at it as me, really. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult to answer questions about, well, the detective thing. What you're going to visualize is the magic of Led Zeppelin was dark and demonic, and also brilliant sunlight. And it was a time in my life where I was so high on narcotics that it was a different dimension, really. The idea has been is to sort of take all that away, remain in a magical space, but not with any kind of like substances, So making detective was very, very magical and painful at the same time. It was like giving birth, I guess. I felt like a mother.
Do you remember the process? How much do you remember of making it?
I remember that I spent most of the time in the hot tub at the record plant. The actual radio studio had a fucking, where you've got like the jacuzzi vibe, And I had two very intimate friends, and they would come into the jacuzzi, and everybody else would be, recording. So it was a very sort of Babylonian experience making that record.
Right. Detective was a band that was on Swan Song, Led Zeppelin's Vanity label. You were also part of Silverhead, which was on Deep Purple's Vanity label. How were your experiences different between those two?
I'm going to go on the Herman Hermits label, is what I want to know. There was, Deep Purple I didn't know. Zeppelin I knew, Deep Purple Records, I never even met anybody in Deep Purple. We did sort of open for them on many, many gigs in the United States. That was our first sort of go round. But I didn't know them. I knew Jimmy and Robert, it was difficult to know Bonzo, and John Paul Jones was very quiet and sort of, So I didn't, there's a whole Zeppelin mythology. Spitz's book is pretty accurate if you've read it. Have you?
Which
Bob Spitz's book on the new book on Zeppelin? It's called Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And the author is Bob Spitz, and I'm all over that book. And it's difficult to describe something like that. That's like trying to describe a hurricane. It's very, very difficult. One was acting at 100%. My entire life has been 100%. I've never given half of myself to anything, except a couple of wives. But essentially, it's been all or nothing.
Now, from a very early age, you seem to be at the epicenter of so many different historical, cultural peaks. Yes. Do you have any stories of Beatles? Did you meet the Beatles early on?
Yeah. When I was 15, 16, I was in drama school, and the BBC came to a drama school and took 6 cute, kids, 3 girls, 3 boys. And I was one of those cute girls. And they put me on a bus, and we all went to Wembley Stadium, wherever it was. The NME, you might recall, New Musical Express, it's a British pop paper. It was fantastic. It was the Bible to us. And they took us to an NME pop gig, festival. Freddie and the Dreamers, Nashville Teens, Dusty Springfield, Cilla Black, you name it. Absolutely fantastic. Yardbirds, who headed the Beatles. So what they did was they were filming us as we were responding to the act, so they could edit it all together and put it, and here it is, this wonderful festival. And that's how I met the Beatles. So what happened was they filmed us going in, and I was, I loved the Beatles, of course, who the fuck didn't, and I arrived there with their fellow students, drama students, but I snuck out before the end. Everybody else, where is he? To putting me back in the bus to go back to the drama school, and I sneaked in backstage. And there was Leonard, like sitting there, with a cigarette going, well, that went rather well, didn't it? Well, I don't know, Paul, John. I sort of enjoyed it. I mean, it was just a Beatle thing. And I've been injected by the Beatles like everybody else says. I go to Beatle Anonymous, I have a sponsor and everything. But it was that's how my Beatle story was literally like Miss Pamela did 2 decades, kind of a few years later in LA. Same thing, we're just in love with that incredible vibe of the, which is interesting because, Jackson's documentary brought all that out in me again. That whole thing at 15, 16, going backstage at this, wherever it was, and trying to find a Beatle, to try and get a shot. And there's a drug. You'd shoot the Beatles into your arm and you'd be happy and blissed out, which is a dreadful way of describing John, Paul, George, and Ringo. But they are addictive, and they were addictive to me, and I was addicted to rock and roll from that moment on.
So you've been at these pivotal moments in culture throughout your life. When Detective came together, did it come together for a project on Swan Song, or did Detective exist and then Swan Song signed Detective as they were?
To be candid, Silverhead was, this amazing rock band. I mean, young, brazen, beautiful music, dirty band, beautiful, loving, sexy. And I loved that band, but I got so strung out, that we broke up, and I'd fallen in love with Miss Pamela. I was married to somebody else. Perhaps you know the story. So then I came to LA with $100 and a hairdryer, and I went to live with Miss Pamela. And this manager, Sepp Donahauer and Skip Taylor, 2 guys that were very, very, shall we say, active in the narcotics business, decided to manage me. So it sounds like a movie. It is a movie to a great degree, and I went to live with Sepp Donahauer in his palace in Benedict Canyon, and Zeppelin came to town, and, one of these guys knew a guitar player, Michael Monarch, put me with Michael Monarch. Michael Monarch got the rhythm section, and we started to play in SIR. Zeppelin come to town, come to the rehearsal, and that was that. I mean, it was that easy. Everything has felt pretty easy, how these things happened, and they're all in this balloon of narcotics, that it's which was sort of magical and dreadful all at the same time.
I get the impression that these doors open largely because you were in these opportunities and you have this charm, this ability to engage with different people and talk with different people, and people want to be around Michael DeBar. And then that's where the doors start opening and the opportunities come about. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I hope you're feeling that way,
Absolutely.
And, the thing is the people that don't know me think I am, self-obsessed narcissist. So what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? So I go, yeah, but if you get to know me and, but there's an immediacy. That's why I'm on the radio, because I'm not extolling my own virtues. I'm extolling the virtues of other music, which has been an incredible thing, which we'll get to with Stevie, which is such a miracle with Stevie Van Zandt. I mean, this guy is something else. He's to me what I am to others. So, but in terms of being affected by, the vibe, people say, what, what's he all about? What's he on? What drug is he using? I want that drug. And it's not about talent. It's about magic. It's about magic. It's about, can you associate with somebody you don't even know? I can make people feel that they've known me all their lives in 1 minute. Because I listen to them, and then I am very, empathetic, because I've been through hell as a child. Abuse, drugs, no parents. That is an amazing thing. It's actually an advantage in many ways. I know that probably sounds peculiar, but I want everybody to be my mama, my dad, my sister, and my brother.
So is that the theme? That is how you develop this sort of charm, these skills, is through a vacuum of which you needed to have a community around you to be able to help.
They gave me more than I ever gave them. It's a family, and it gives me a family. And if I want to be loved, and I want to love more than anything, I want to be loved, and I want to love. I want to love someone. That's why I ended up at Live Aid.
We'll get to that because that's an amazing story. There's so many amazing stories in your career. So again, I want to try to let's look at Detective, because I know there's a big project, a big re-release coming out of Detective. Yeah. When you listen to Detective these days, are you able to enjoy it, or do you listen and self-critique? What is your...
No, I don't judge anything at any time I've done. That's you will always find something wrong with what you do, and I let go of that when I was 16 years old. I realized that if you say, "Oh, if only I never said that," and I listened to Detective this morning, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about my own record. And I believe it, and I love it. I love that record. I love every record I've ever made. I thought it was, biblical. There's the third testament, But, so no, I never look back and critique anything. No. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that? So, I think Detective is kick-ass, unbelievable, especially today. I mean, if you look at Manskin or that whole thing, I mean, there's somehow whatever one has done in the past is there. Here it comes again. Rock and roll, 80% of rock and roll are tribute bands. They just have different names. You know what I mean? Some people Petty to be. Some people choose the Stones. Some people choose Beyonce. Some people choose Ye. God help them. And, so, it's just Here We Go Again, which is a great title for something, actually. Here We Go Again would be fun.
The sequel.
The sequel would be good. Here we go. But it's not to negate or deny what happened. It's wow, here we go again in an exalted way rather than in a sort of narcissistic way.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have, at the end of the day, in the Western music scale, you have 12 tones that you're scrambling up, and there are a finite number of combinations.
Yes, the finite combinations. Yes,
but it's the je ne sais quoi that comes with it, the credibility of someone like yourself that comes and brings an additional level of energy or perspective to it, or character that makes it unique, and I'll say less derivative than perhaps some others.
That is the smartest thing that any journalist has said to me in the last 45 minutes. Oh. No, ever. That is very, very, very clever of you and very wise of you. And that's exactly what is the truth. You have to bring something that is indefinable, that substance, that magic, thing that we're all doing the same three chords. So therefore there's got to be something,
Mm-hmm.
You have to unique it some way.
Now, in Detective, it was very clear Detective was going to Swan Song. Were there other labels that were bidding against?
Everybody, CBS, everybody. They all offered us more money, millions. And I just love Jimmy, do you know how I met them? Do you know that story?
No, share it, please.
We're at Silverhead, great. We're in a club. We're in Birmingham. We're playing. We enjoyed it. It was so fantastic. It was 11 people in the audience. 4 of them were Led Zeppelin. And the reason that they were there was I was sort of, knew Jimmy and, gotten high with him somewhere. And they all 4 of them, Bonzo's farm was 2 miles from this club in Birmingham. So what happened was Silverhead, beautiful. Collectively, we weighed 150 pounds for one thing. It was just like this classic rock and roll thing. And we went to Bonzo's farm where they were rehearsing. And we all, 3 days, 3 nights. Those 3 days and 3 nights, a year or 2 later, became Detective because we connected there. They were doing Jamaica. They were rehearsing Jamaica.
Right.
Song, And I remember it distinctly, but it was so, I remember some things distinctly. I don't know the whole thing, but my God, that's what happened. They dug us and he remembered that. And when I was, in LA and at SAR and he came down, and and it all sort of went like a Bruce Lee thing,
Yeah.
It was this out of the, like voila, and it was all of that. It's amazing magic.
Now, those two experiences with Led Zeppelin, early in Silverhead, and then as Detective was forming, I imagine the band Led Zeppelin had transformed so much in that time.
Oh my God, it was amazing. I spent some time with them, but the most important time was when they played the Forum in LA. When they did, I think it was 7 nights, and nobody slept. And I was there everything. And I remember I went to the dressing room to get high, whatever, in the middle of the thing, and Bonzi was playing, and Robert was walking towards me in this thing, and he was just going, and I went, oh my God. I suddenly disassociated them from being people I knew to what the Led Zeppelin experience was. And it just blew my mind. And it taught me more in that 30 seconds of what you have to do to have an audience. I went up a level just watching Robert walk towards me and do what he did with such confidence and such enjoyment. You know what I mean? When you see somebody out there enjoying themselves, you're automatically attached to them. And I had learned that very early on. It's very important to understand that, that if you want to be a good performer, you've got to give that to those people. The confidence and the reality of what is happening, is so fucking, it's such a high. And I learned that from Robert Plant walking down, not from being on stage, walking towards me. And it was like something out of literally like this prince, this Norwegian Viking coming out of the smoke and fire, which is such a corny description of Robert Plant, because nothing like that. But to hear this thing coming towards me, this magic thing, it taught me so much about Zeppelin.
Now you watch this happen, you experience this happen, you yourself feel elevated. How does that change you? What do you do different going forward from that moment?
It gives you a lot of positive energy that when you step out on the stage again, you want to be as good as that. I've always wanted to be as good as the best.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, whatever it is, it could be ping pong, but I want to be the best fucking ping pong player that ever played ping pong. I just want to be the best at whatever it is, I want to be, and not even like rise above everybody. And there's the silver medal and there's the bronze medal and there's the gold medal. It's not that. It's just, you want to hit the heights. Why else do it?
Well, connecting at a kinetic level.
I love that. That's exactly right. Connecting on a kinetic level is precisely what I'm talking about. It's not a masturbatory thing as an artist, as a performer, I just want to be good at it. Whatever it is, man, I just want to be good at it. I don't want to be appreciated for it. I don't want to be, it's not a kind of a desire to be a step over or a step above. It's just being really good at what you do. But you're not defining yourself by anybody else, how anybody else does it. It's just be good at what you do. That's what's kept me alive and afloat.
I think something that I've seen in your, just knowing you from afar, one of the many things you're good at is people in the same room as you feel important.
Yes.
And that's something like politicians are very good at. There's a politician, you may disagree with a lot of their policies, but they love them. Yeah, they come in a room and they just light it up, and they help people find it within themselves to feel good, feel important.
You're a very perceptive man. Right now, as we're speaking, there are 6 women in the garden. It is my wife's birthday. Each one of them takes me aside and says, when you did this, when you did that, whatever it is, there is something that's touched people somewhere along the line that I've done, whether it be high comedy on sitcoms in America. I've done 150 hours of fucking television in America. And there's always something. And I always go, oh, I'm so good. I always say back, I don't go, yeah, that's great. Jerry Seinfeld's an idiot, but it was great. I don't think like that. So I think I think that that's terribly important, to honor people and to make them feel comfortable. Because what is acting? What is music? You're trying to make people happy. You're entertaining people. Now, I'm not entertaining myself. I'm not up there to win any honors or anything. I'm there to just absolutely give everything I've got, and they will just love me forever, And it's because of what happened to me. The abuse, the sexual abuse, the no parents, and leaving school at 16 and doing To Sell With Love. What the fuck? I went from the street urchin to, at Pinewood Studios having a chat with Sean Connery when he played fucking Bond, And I'm 16 years old, and I've been around that glitter and those lights and cut and action and roll it, and that whole thing all my life. And I want it. It's the same thing in one's social life. So they're all out there now. You're talking to each other and enjoying the vibe and all the presents that have arrived for my wife. And it's and I'm talking to you, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh. Well, see, it's working on me too.
Yeah.
So, detective, I've heard, correct or confirm, that Bonzo was either on some of the actual recordings or on some of the detective demos.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey everyone, let me tell you about AudiofileUSA.com. AudiofileUSA.com is a fantastic place to buy used records online. AudiofileUSA.com has a heap of inventory, like tens of thousands of records you could search through online, and they are all excellent and near mint quality. These are your final upgrades, beautiful records that you can enjoy for years to come. AudiofileUSA.com is a family-owned and operated business, and they work hard to find the absolute cleanest records in the world and make them available to you. Head up there now, AudiofileUSA.com, search and dig through their selection and find the deals. Get a box of love on its way to you now from AudiofileUSA.com. Now, I know that you know that the Groove Washer is the best record cleaner in the world, but did you know that Groove Washer now makes archival quality record sleeves too? Yep. The world's best record cleaner is now making some fantastic sleeves and record accessories for a limited time introductory offer. The Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves are absolutely fantastic, so head up there now and try them for yourself. Go to groovewasher.com and use discount code FINALGUIDE10. That's the Groove Washer record cleaners, record sleeves, and other protection for your record collection. That's groovewasher.com.
Now we return to the program already in progress.
No limits.
I've heard, correct or confirm, that Bonzo was either on some of the actual recordings or on some of the detective demos.
I can't really talk about that. There's lots of mythology, which is all beside the point. That record was amazing, and it was a wonderful experience, and I sang my ass off, and that's all I could say.
Okay. I will take that as a maybe. Now, did you have much involvement with Peter Grant?
Yeah.
Yeah?
He was Gollum and God. He was the most demonic, loving father. He created the notion and the magic of Led Zeppelin. He didn't put out singles. He didn't allow promoters. He really rearranged the whole notion of super bands. He was the guy. He was the one to do it. As you know, I'm sure you know your history. And he was a father figure to many. And one of the toughest people. See, I've always been fascinated by the streets. The streets of London were heavenly in terms of velvet-clad rock and rollers and gangsters. So I was fascinated by the world of gangsterism. Peter Grant was part of that, as I'm sure you're aware. Mm. Richard Cole, dear Richard Cole, passed away recently. I adored this guy. But they were on the dark side. Now, you put all of this together, you put velvet-clad, beautiful musicians that have something to say that Jimmy did, Robert Bonzo and John Paul Jones was just a very strict musician because Jimmy and John Paul Jones did everything, Kinks, and the other two were in a band together, and it's Peter Grant, he loved Jimmy. I mean, he was really in love with Jimmy, not in any sexual way, but just as a father figure, I suppose, but also, understanding just how far Jimmy could go, and I loved him. He was always good to me. He was always, when they all were in Malibu and they were in a house, I was the guy that was going from house to house because they didn't speak really much, the band. So I would carry messages from one to the other down in Malibu at Peter's behest. So it was much deeper than, he was really good president of the label. You know what I mean? There was no label. Swan wasn't a label. It was a tribe of because none of those bands were successful except Paul's band, except for Bad Company. Because Bad Company had management and Swan we didn't. We had coke dealers and, none of those bands, the Pretty Things, were a fantastic band, dude. None of them. I mean, that as a business was ridiculous. I just loved Peter because he was a mythic figure, and I love mythic figures.
Now, Detective's first album came out literally within 30 days of a few other Swan Song releases, which I always read to say that
didn't help.
Didn't have the attention that perhaps could have projected it higher.
Yeah, I don't think about it, though, because all of the things that I've done, I don't think about the outcome of any of them. I'm on to the next thing, and there's, with Detective, I got Jonesy and then we did, Checkered Past, but it's not something that I really think about too much. I mean, if they hadn't done that and the band had been successful, that's another thing, but that didn't happen. And I very much am a person who accepts what is rather than what could have been.
Right. Was the first album and Takes One to Know One largely recorded around the same time? Because they came out like very close to one another, I believe.
Yeah, we had a tremendous amount of material. There's so many Mother songs that we done too, But then they wanted us to do some John Cougar song, Johnny Mellencamp. And we said, no, we can't really do that, And there's so many things that went down. We were recording constantly, and because it was such a time of creation, and that's why that album came out. Because I guess Atlantic thought that, okay, if it wasn't this one, it's going to be this one, and it was neither. And they did come out, I think, too close. I think we should have. Gene was so good to us, and Paul from Kiss, and they really. We opened for them many times, and they knew the power. They could hear it. They felt it. They loved Led Zeppelin. They loved that vibe, that big boozy, because they're just, on a rock, their thing, and our thing was, that, and they allowed us to tour with them, and that was really cool. But that had to stop in the middle when Swan Song fell apart. So it just the whole thing fell apart.
And at what point did you recognize that Swan Song had fallen apart?
I've never really looked at it that way. It just next. Next. I didn't really dwell on it. Okay, what's next? Right. And what's next was I went to see the Sex Pistols in San Francisco, and at the end of the funeral, as it were, of Detective, and I just couldn't believe what I saw.
Was there a moment when you knew Detective was a done deal?
Oh yeah, I knew halfway through that second tour that it was. We weren't getting along. The record was not zooming up the charts, and one being, I think the chameleon in me just said, "I will create something else immediately. This is not fun, And, there was substance abuse within that band and frustration and so on and so forth. And we didn't have management, which was really stupid. We said no to everybody, because Peter was so powerful.
There was one final album, Detective Live at Atlantic Studios. What do you recall about that session?
Not much.
No.
It was a live thing in some theater, I'm told, but I don't remember a second of it. I don't remember. I've heard it. It's good, but I don't remember doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it came out after the band was broken up, and those sessions, there was a few other bands that did something very similar. Those were an attempt to kind of break the bands on radio, but by the time it came out, Detective was no longer a functioning entity, so it just kind of
I cut my hair. I mean, it was different. I completely changed after I saw the Sex Pistols.
Now, I know we only have a little bit of time left, Michael. I want to hit some of the other incredible moments of your career. The song Obsession, which I believe you wrote/co-wrote. What is your favorite version of that song? It's been covered hundreds of times. Which is the one that you'd like to go back to?
Mine.
The original.
Yeah, me and Holly's version. I did. There's so many. There's one Swedish band that did it, very electronic, because I love that electronic. I love that Kraftwerk vibe. I always did. You know, the very scientific thing. I love that. And it's so interesting that I like that, because Muddy Waters is, my thing. Stonesy, like Faces and that sort of drunken bluesy, spiky hair, rock and roll, Stevie Marriott. But I'm very into it. And there's some Swedish band that did a very, I thought that was pretty cool. But I was just glad, I wrote it because of, it's about drugs. It's not about a lover, but I wrote it about a lover because I felt that was perhaps more commercial. And I wrote it with Holly Knight, who was brilliant songwriter, really clever, and has many hits. And we got lucky, just number one all over the world. And, and I live in a beautiful house as a result. It's it was an amazing thing to happen. I mean, that song was massive.
With the popularity of it, and with artists now considering selling their publishing, is that something that crosses your mind, or?
It has crossed my mind. I'm really fond of Mercuriadis. I think he's amazing. What he's done, and it's a great idea. The catalog's going. I haven't done that, and I'm not going to do that. There's not. I don't really want to do. I don't require that kind of money. I don't need it. I just like to have my stuff and have my grandchildren, enjoy it, and the profits from it. It seems awfully bureaucratic and greedy. I suppose. I mean, people are entitled to whatever they want to do, but I'm not going to sell anything I've ever done. Why would I? I'm not here to be bought and sold.
Well, it's almost like the marquee title that has been passed on from generation to generation. Now you have this historical piece of culture that can now be passed on with the DeBar name.
Yeah, I think that's important, on every level, and I believe in that, and I don't want to stand for anything, but, what I've done, and I believe in it, and it just seems awfully unbohemian.
Yeah. More Wall Street than Greenwich Village. Yeah.
You're smart. You're clever. I love that. It's like brohemian. It's just awful. Horrible thought.
So, again, another incredible moment of your life is joining Power Station.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And the first gig, you joined this band.
Yes.
And walk us through joining the band and that first show that you played.
It's fantastic. I was just, somebody asked me that, an hour ago outside in the garden. But what happened was, I was in Florida. Where was I? I think I was in Texas with Don Jones. He was making a movie. We were hanging out. I got a phone call from Wayne Forte, classic guy, New York promoter, amazing. You might have heard of him. Calls me, says, "Hey, Mike, we've got a situation here where somebody needs a singer, and they have a tour booked for 6 months. Would you like to come and do that tour with this band?" I said, "Who's the band?" He said, "I can't tell you." I said, "Okay." First class, white limousine, and JFK, and that's what happened. I go to the thing. I go up 14 stories. I'm in the thing. I walk in. It's John and Tony Taylor and Thompson, sweating profusely, nervous, really nervous. And Wayne Forte, the promoter, and he says, "Okay, so I go, oh, the power station, because the power station was like number one at that time, because what had happened was a secretary that worked with Wayne Forte called me back and said, 'Hey, Michael, you got to do this.' He said, 'This is the power station. This is fucking Duran.'" Oh God, because he wouldn't tell me, but
So in that white limo, you actually knew who you were about to meet.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So then I Duran, went into the office, and it was fantastic. It was like, but everything in my life has been like this. It's like some movie. So then I walk in there, and they're sweating, and then so they want me to sing. What happened was Checker passed me and Jonesy and Clem and Nigel. We'd opened for Duran, so John and Andy remembered me. So when that's what happened. That night, we go to the power station studio. We get the record. They take his vocals off. The great Robert Palmer, who I'd known for years and loved and adored and thought was brilliant, the Marvin Gaye of the situation, fantastic talent. And I got on the Concorde that night with the cassette of the album, with and without Robert's vocals. I learned, Get It On and Murderous. I had it precise. I arrive at the Dorchester. They had a suite for me at the Dorchester. I was then directed immediately, no sleep, to the studios. I can't remember the name of the studios, and to wait for Andy Taylor, who was in England. It was in London. He was the final guy to say yes. You know what bands are like? All of them have to say, yes, let's wear Cuban heels, or whatever the fuck it is, right? So in this case, I was a Cuban heel. So I go into the studio and I wait hours. I'm out hours and hours. And then the doors open, the billowing marijuana smoke, and Andy Taylor walks in with two bodyguards. He's only that big, right? So he's huge guys. And he goes, all right, Michael, let's see what you got. I hit the thing. And I Get It On. And I sang it. And I sang a verse and a chorus. He said, let's go shopping. I said, for what, Andy? He said, clothes, let's go shopping, let's go buy something. And I said, okay. And it literally what happened, literally that fast. This is on the Dorchester. I'm now in London. So then I go out, I buy $20,000 worth of fucking clothes. I get back on the Concorde. I go back to New York and I go to rehearsals. And he comes back the next day. I'm at some spectacular hotel with yellow roses everywhere. And that night I go to dinner with Don Johnson in a Chinese restaurant. Before I go to the dinner, I get a phone call at the hotel saying, you're out.
You're out. You're not going to be at Power Station.
Robert Palmer is going to do the tour. So sorry. Put the phone down. Let's go to dinner. I say, Don, it's a nightmare. And then I look over and it's John Taylor at another table. This is absolutely true. John Taylor's at another table, shall we say, inebriated. John Taylor is in love with Sonny Crockett.
Don Johnson's character. Okay.
John goes over to John and says, can I talk to you? And they go outside. They come back and we continue dinner. He didn't say anything, and I didn't want to ask him what happened. John Taylor goes to his table. John Johnson, who's sober like me at night, fine. Next morning, I go back to the hotel. Next morning, the phone rings, and it's my manager, Danny Goldberg, and he says, you're back in. Oh. I said, does that mean I can keep the clothes? And there was a silence somewhat like yours. And he said, yes, Michael, you can keep the fucking clothes. I said, what happened? He said, well, they gave him a piece of the merchandising. I said, oh, great. You're rehearsing at noon. And I went to rehearsals and I did 3 days of rehearsals. And then did you know what? The biggest gig in history.
There's a lot to unpack there. But from that moment, how long, the first gig, Live Aid, in front of 80,000 people in Philadelphia and billions around the world.
Let's go to the 2 billion. Yeah, that's the number I like to use.
So, how many days was that? What was that span of time?
I would say all in all about 8 hours that I had to learn 30 songs.
Yeah, but from the time you got back to the hotel, at what point were you?
When was I? About a week.
About a week. Okay. All right. You went from being on the out, from being at like a nadir point to playing the biggest show on earth.
Yeah. Madonna, out of her mind, nervous. All I remember about Madonna was the bracelets rattling with nerves.
Oh.
Tina writing the words on her palm of her hand. And I mean, it was unbelievable. If you filmed the backstage area, and by the way, all of us stayed at the same hotel that night. Can you imagine what that was like? I'm on a couch with Dylan, who's like this. Hey, all drunk. Hey, what do you mean? Order it up. Get it on room service. And Dylan here, Mick, Keith, all bowing to Don Johnson, who introduced us at the gig. We then flew to Miami that night, and we did Miami, and Don came up and sang something with us, a Moon Martin song. What was the name of it? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But he got up crazy. We all had shades on. He didn't know. He turned around. We all had shades. But that night in the hotel, that is rock and roll. That evening night, because Mick is with Simon Le Bon's daughter. I mean, it was like unbelievable.
So I know you say you don't like to overthink things, but it has to be a transformative moment going in front of Live Aid. Certainly that gave you pause to consider what's happening there.
No, I don't have time. No, because then I'd forget, what I'm there to do. And what I'm there to do is sing and, kick ass. And, because when you're a front man, you got to get them going, and the band itself was nervous because even though they're multimillionaires, 22 years old, and this is the first gig from the Power Station album that they were very proud of, and so they should be. It's a great record. It's great songs, great vibe. Nile and Bernard Edwards, and just amazing. And I wanted to do the job. I wanted to be great. I wanted that band to soar, and I didn't have time to worry. It was, it was too quick and too fast. And I was too confident. I was so confident about it. What can go wrong? And even if it does, so what?
So now with Detective being reissued, what are you hoping that people will now discover about this band?
I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
I really want people to enjoy it. Whether they do or don't, it's really got nothing to do with me, has it? Do you see what I mean? I mean, you do it, and it exists, and if people love it, then that'd be fantastic, And all the people that have worked so hard on getting it done again, at Org Records, and Scarlett Bartlett, who has really been amazing putting this all together. I'm happy for them, and I hope that it's successful for the people that have helped, and it will advance Detective's legacy. But I don't believe in legacy. Legacy has nothing to do with my belief system at all. I don't want to be remembered, or I just want to be remembered as like a good dad, and a singer, and a song and dance man.
Well, you certainly left footprints. I mean, maybe your legacy isn't going to affect you as you live here, but you do have these footprints that people will think of Michael DeBar years and years from now.
Yeah.
How do you want that to be?
How do you want me to be? That's another question, isn't it? Which I've been asked by women and men. Let's see. How do I have no idea. I mean, I think I have a great work ethic. I'm 40 years of heroin. And I think that's really important for people to know that you can. I'm 74, so I have done a lot, and you can do a lot more. And I intend on doing a lot more. I'm in great shape. I feel fantastic. I eat right. I'm loyal to my beautiful wife, and I adore Miss Pamela, and I have a lovely tribe. And I think just to hopefully one will be looked at as a positive person who really worked hard. And and my only advice and what I would like to be remembered as is somebody who, it was a long battle and we won.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the Vinyl Guide. It is absolutely delightful conversation. And again, it really, you are so very inspiring on multiple levels, not only musically, in the arts, but also just as a human being, giving your good energy to others and inspiring others to respond and be better themselves. And again, I think that is part of the Michael DeBar magic. And I thank you for bringing it today. I want to make sure everyone knows Detective, the reissue of the debut album, is coming out April 23rd, Record Store Day. There are only 2,000 units of this available. It's a reissue. It's got some new packaging. There are some new liner notes. There's some new information, other elements of the detective story, which, again, is an absolutely fascinating part of musical journey here for Michael, for Swan Song Records, for lovers of rock and roll. So Detective, reissue coming out April 23rd. Make sure to grab one early on Detective Store Day. Maybe we'll call that Detective Store Day. It's no longer Record Store Day. It's like Detective Store Day.
Yeah. Detective in this case.
And thank you so much, Michael. You're welcome back anytime, sir.
Well, you're a very perceptive man, and I really enjoyed talking to you a great deal. Thank you so much.
All right, there he is. What a gentleman. Oh, my goodness. I think he made me ovulate. Mr. Michael DeBar, don't forget the Detective reissue on Record Store Day. And if you like this interview, don't forget there's an extended version at patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. Head up there now, support this podcast, and enjoy all the extras. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to ask you a favor here. Please share these episodes across your social medias. Share them on Facebook, tweet them out on Twitter, do a screen grab, put that on Instagram. Just help spread the word of The Vinyl Guide podcast. And if you have a moment and you want to do your buddy Nate a solid, please leave us a positive review. Log on iTunes or Stitcher and give us 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 stars. Say something nice. That always helps the podcast and is much appreciated here. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.